Chapter 1. A Mother's Journey. On a warm summer evening, a young, beautiful pregnant lady identified as Moria was in her kitchen cooking dinner for her lovely husband. She had promised her husband that day to prepare his favorite meal. Moria and her husband, Richard, live in a quiet neighborhood. Their marriage is full of love, sacrifices, and hopes. Richard works in the Oringville investment as a financial analyst. Moria is a music artist. Their marriage will be 4 years in a few months' time, and they look forward to celebrating their anniversary with their first baby. After they both had dinner, Moria was prepared to bring to life her dream baby, who will join and share in their family's love. She was filled with excitement and a touch of anxiety. She clutched her swollen belly, feeling the first signs of labor. Her eyes widened, and she knew the time had come. Without a moment to lose, Moria's husband, Richard, rushed to their small but dependable car parked in the driveway. He helped her into the passenger seat with great care, making sure she was comfortable. The engine roared to life, and they sped off toward the nearby hospital, its bright neon sign piercing the night sky like a guiding star. Moria's journey to motherhood had been a winding path, marked by the love that had blossomed between her and Richard. Her parents, coming from a world of privilege and wealth, had never approved of her relationship with Richard, a man from humble beginnings. The world they knew was filled with societal expectations and judgments, and Moria's decision to marry Richard had strained her relationship with her family. As they raced through the quiet streets, Richard's heart was filled with a mixture of emotions. He knew that the birth of their child was a symbol of their love and the bond they had built. But the weight of disapproval from Moria's parents had often cast a shadow over their happiness. The streets, normally empty at this late hour, seemed to sense the urgency of the situation. They hit every green light, and the journey to the hospital felt like a well-orchestrated dance of destiny, reminiscent of the countless hurdles they had overcome in their journey together. Moria and Richard reached the hospital, their hearts pounding with hope and fear. A kind nurse rushed out with a wheelchair, and Moria was gently lowered into it. Richard held her hand and kissed her forehead, offering words of love and encouragement as they entered the bright, bustling maternity ward. In the midst of all the commotion, Moria was ushered into a cozy, well-lit room where the compassionate hospital staff surrounded her, assuring her that everything would be okay. Her journey as a mother had begun, and Richard, the love of her life, was there by her side. Their path had been rocky, but their love had always guided them through the storms. Little did they know that this ordinary night was about to become extraordinary, filled with twists, challenges, and unbreakable bonds. Moria's strength, Richard's unwavering support, and the love they had for each other would be put to the test, and the world would soon witness a remarkable tale of courage, compassion, and unyielding hope. A bittersweet arrival. As Moria's labor pains intensified, the dedicated medical team at the hospital worked tirelessly to help her through the difficult process. Richard never left her side, holding her hand and whispering words of encouragement. Amidst the pain and the uncertainty, a moment of mixed emotions arrived. The cries of a newborn baby filled the room, and the doctor announced, "It's a girl!" Moria and Richard's faces lit up with joy and tears of happiness as they saw their beautiful daughter for the first time. The room was filled with love, hope, and dreams for the future. Moria whispered, her voice filled with overwhelming love, "Our precious little angel. We'll name her Lily." Richard nodded, tears in his eyes. "Lily, it's the perfect name for her." Their happiness, however, was short-lived, as the room was soon filled with a sense of urgency. The medical team worked frantically to stabilize Moria, but the strain of labor had taken a severe toll on her. Her face turned pale, and the room was filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the soft cries of baby Lily. Moria's eyes met Richard's, and she whispered with a trembling voice, "Take care of Lily, Richard. Promise me you'll love her, always." Tears welled up in Richard's eyes, and he nodded, his voice breaking. "No, sweetheart, we should do that together, Moria. What are you saying? You got to stay here with us. Please, no, you can't leave us alone. Doctor, do whatever it takes. I'm not losing my wife." As the medical team continued their efforts, Moria's condition deteriorated rapidly. The room was now a whirlwind of activity, but Moria's gaze remained locked on her daughter. She knew she wouldn't have much time with Lily, but her love for her child was unwavering. With a final loving look at Richard, she managed to cry, "I love you, Rich. Lily." Moria's strength waned, and her heart stopped beating. The room fell into a somber silence, a stark contrast to the joy that had filled it just moments ago. Their bittersweet journey had taken an unexpected turn, but the bond between Moria, Richard, and their newborn daughter would be an enduring story of the power of love, even in the face of tragedy. Chapter 2: The Cruel Twist of Fate. The room, which had been filled with both joy and sorrow, was now plunged into a heavy silence. Richard cradled baby Lily in his arms, his heart torn between the happiness of their daughter's arrival and the devastating news that had just shattered his world. The doctor's voice broke the silence. "I'm sorry, Mr. Richard, but we eventually lost your wife to excessive bleeding. We did everything we could." Richard's world seemed to crumble at those words, and he clutched Lily even tighter, as if to protect her from the pain that had engulfed them. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he managed to whisper, "Thank you for trying, Doctor." The nurse in the room placed a gentle hand on Richard's shoulder and said softly, "I'm so sorry for your loss. If there's anything we can do, please don't hesitate to ask." Richard nodded, his voice trembling. "Thank you, but right now all I have to do is be here for Lily. Moria would have wanted that." As he looked down at his newborn daughter, Richard felt a complex swirl of emotions. Lily was a beacon of hope in the midst of their tragedy, a living reminder of the love that he and Moria had shared. Her tiny fingers wrapped around his, and he made a silent promise to be the best father he could possibly be. Through tear-filled eyes, Richard murmured to Lily, "You have your mother's eyes, Lily. She loved you so much, and even though she's not with us anymore, her love will always be a part of you." The room, once filled with happiness, now held the weight of grief and loss. Richard, though devastated by the sudden turn of events, knew he had a responsibility to carry on for both Lily and Moria. He would honor his wife's memory by giving their daughter all the love and care she deserved. As the sun began to rise outside the hospital window, a new day began for Richard and Lily. Their journey, though marked by heartache, would be one of resilience, strength, and the enduring power of love. The Johnsons. As the first rays of sunlight touched the hospital room, casting a warm glow on Richard and Lily, a solemn knock on the door signaled the arrival of unexpected visitors. Chief and Mrs. Lincoln Johnson, Moria's parents, entered the room with anxious expressions, their faces etched with worry. Mrs. Johnson's eyes teared up as she saw her son-in-law holding Lily in his arms, but she couldn't hide the concern in her voice. "Richard, what's happened? Where is Moria?" Richard took a deep breath, his eyes welling up with tears once more. "I'm so sorry. Moria, she didn't make it. We lost her during childbirth." The room fell into a heavy silence, and Chief Johnson's face turned pale. The news was a devastating blow to Moria's parents, who had never fully accepted her choice of marriage. They had imagined a different future for their daughter, one that didn't include Richard, a man from a modest background. Mrs. Johnson choked back her tears and reached out to touch Lily's tiny hand, her voice trembling. "And this is our granddaughter?" Richard nodded, his voice filled with sorrow. "Yes, this is Lily. She's our beautiful daughter." Chief Johnson, struggling to come to terms with the situation, turned to his wife and said, "We must honor Moria's memory and support Richard and Lily. This is our family now, and we can't turn our backs on them." Mrs. Johnson wiped away her tears and nodded, her gaze filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "You're right, Lincoln. Moria loved Richard deeply, and we must respect her choice and embrace our new reality." Richard, touched by their willingness to support him and Lily, offered a tearful smile. "Thank you. Moria would have wanted that." As the Johnsons and Richard gathered around Lily, a fragile sense of unity began to take shape, despite the tragedy that had befallen them. The bittersweet arrival of Lily had opened a new chapter in their lives, one that would require forgiveness, understanding, and the strength to move forward together. The road ahead would be challenging, but the bond between the Johnsons and Richard would be tested, and perhaps through the love they could offer to Lily, it would heal the wounds of the past and create a new, blended family.